At the graduation duel venue of the Dueling Academy, a mysterious light curtain suddenly appeared, interrupted Caesar Liang and the 10th generation who were preparing for a duel. Real graduation duel, Hell Caesar vs Overlord 10 generations. This line of words filled the students who were watching the duel arena with curiosity. After the disappearance of the light screen text, the duel between the two displayed, refreshed everyone's understanding of duels present. But the classic hot-blooded duels displayed by the light screen are not limited to this. Peak Dragon, Stardust Dragon vs Red Lotus Magic Dragon. The War of Revenge, 10,000 Eyes vs 10 Generations. A new duel for heroes, 10 Generations vs Love, the figure of the senior, the 10th generation, Love vs Games, within the city. The Revenge War of the Return of Hell, Caesar of Hell vs Love, the dark side of the dimension. The true final battle. The Seahorse Seat Man vs. The Soul of the Pharaoh King, not AI, exciting duels, new chain methods, and new cards that have never appeared before, continuously refreshing the knowledge of duelers in various dimensions. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Hell Caesar vs Overlord 10 Generations, Kneeling Down. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the afternoon. Dueling Academy Arena. At this time, the arena was already filled with students from 3 dormitories. Obelisk Blue, Sun God Yellow, and Osiris Red. The 3 stands of the arena were all filled with students, except for one stand where 2 people sat empty. They are Principal Shajima and Professor Kuronos, the Pot of Desire. The duel arena of this college has welcomed so many students and 2 top leaders of the college, because this duel in the arena was privately praised by the students as this year's top duel at the Dueling Academy. This duel is precisely the graduation duel of Caesar Liang, an outstanding student of Obelix Blue, and the duel player he chose was the freshman of Osiris Red, the 10th generation of the city tour. Just as the students were waiting for both sides to take the stage, there are 5 people sitting in a stand. The stands in the duel arena were crowded with people, but these 5 people are empty around them. No one chooses to sit next to these 5 people. Maruto Sho clenched his fists tightly. The face with a pair of huge round glasses was filled with a tense expression. It's as if I'm going to stage a showdown. Finally, it's about to start. Sitting next to Maruto Sho, the golden-haired beauty of the heavenly courtyard, Akira, staring solemnly at the dueling platform in the middle of the arena. After hearing Maruto Sho's words, he nodded along. 2 people sitting on the other side of Maruto Sho remained silent. They are dressed in black, but now they are in the sight of Osiris Red, and the land of sands, which is about to ascend to Obelisk Blue. In a sense, these 2 people's cards can be called the top showdown of the year, right? Sitting behind the 4 people was the sky courtyard of Obelisk Blue, blowing snow. The snow blowing in the heavenly courtyard is the older brother of the blonde beauty, the heavenly courtyard Akira. The snow blowing in the courtyard of heaven and the one in this duel, Caesar Liang, known as the double walls of the Dueling Academy. But for some reason, the snow in the courtyard disappeared for a year. This is also one of the reasons why Akira from the Heavenly Academy joined the Dueling Academy. Later, it was retrieved by Akira and others. Due to being absent from school for a whole year, the heavenly courtyard blue snow, I have to retake 2nd grade. The snow in the courtyard enveloped my arms, and my face was very serious. Only he knows the true strength of Caesar Liang in the entire Dueling Academy. On the data, it's 8-on-2, Caesar has an advantage. Sans Dottie took out a pen and a notebook to calculate the winning rate of both sides in this showdown. What a meticulous calculation. Tianyuan Mingrika sighed as she looked at the carefully calculated Sans Dottie. Sitting beside the land of sands, the black-robed man closed his eyes and pondered deeply. Why did Caesar bypass me in lightning to confront the 10th generation? Just as a few people were discussing this showdown, suddenly, there was a commotion in the scene. Countless people's eyes focused on an entrance next to the central showdown platform. The 10th generation of Yoshiro dressed in Osiris red school uniform and Caesar Liang dressed in obelisk blue school uniform, the two walked side by side into the duel arena. When the two walked to the duel platform, they walked towards both sides of the platform. On stage, Maritaka looked at the 10th generation of Yoshiro below and said with some confusion. Big Brother's expression is different from usual. Akira, who was by Maruto Sho's side, also noticed that Tendai no longer had the usual sense of ease. It seems a bit serious. Sans Dottie Concord Dao. Both sides, right. Blowing Snow said with a serious expression. Is it good or bad? Akira looked at the Blowing Snow behind her with some confusion, but after Blowing Snow finished saying these words, she looked seriously at the two people on the duel platform. The 10th generation and Caesar Liang, who were already standing on the duel platform, faced both sides. The two walked solemnly towards the center of the duel platform. 10 generations stared at Caesar Liang and said. Caesar, I want to win today. After Sherdai finished speaking, he extended his hand. Caesar nodded brightly and also extended his hand. After shaking hands with each other, the two turned their heads and returned to their respective positions. Just as the two of them were poised to start a duel, a sudden mutation occurred. A huge light curtain suddenly appeared in the middle of the duel platform. This light curtain appears very abrupt. With the appearance of the light curtain, a huge light shone on everyone in the duel arena, unable to open their eyes. At the same time, a huge light curtain also appeared over the entire world of duels. After the light dissipated, the crowd in the duel arena barely opened their eyes and discovered the light curtain on the stage. The students around the duel arena exclaimed in surprise. Even Principal Shajima and Professor Kuronos, the Pot of Desire, are not clear about it. What is the light curtain on the duel platform? Professor Kuronos, was this light curtain also prepared by you? Principal Shajima looked at Professor Kuronos beside him with a smile. Kuronos replied with a bewildered expression. I'm not very clear about this. The 10th generation and Caesar Liang on the duel platform were also very puzzled. As a newcomer to the college, the 10th generation spoke excitedly. How impressive! Is this the standard for graduation duels from the Dueling Academy? It's really amazing. Caesar across from the 10th generation said with a serious expression. No, this light curtain has never appeared in every graduation duel. The puzzled expression on Professor Kurono's face in your stands is not arranged by the college. Just as Caesar finished speaking, a line of text appeared on the screen of light on the stage. Real graduation duel, Hell Caesar vs Overlord 10 generations. P.S. The new book set sail, begging for the data support of all readers. Chapter 2. A unique graduation duel. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hell Caesar. The snow blowing in the courtyard looked incredulously at the text on the screen of light on the stage. What kind of ghost is Caesar from hell? Tianyuan Mingrika was even more shocked and said. The 10 generations of the Overlord. Is it difficult to say that the 10 generations of the Overlord are referring to the 10 generations? Maruto Sho's expression was even more shocked. Impossible. The 10 generations of Overlord mentioned above is definitely not talking about Big Brother. Sans Dottie frowned and looked at the duel platform without saying a word. The 10,000 Zhang Ai is like gritting teeth and cutting teeth. That guy from the 10th generation, I didn't even say he was a bully, he dared to call himself a bully. The students around the duel arena were all boiling, after seeing the text on the light screen and the codes for Caesar and the 10th generation. The students, everyone is discussing endlessly. Caesar's code name is so handsome. Hell Caesar, that's right. Caesar from hell. Caesar from hell. The code name of the 10th generation is not bad either. The 10th generation of the Overlord. What a domineering title. Are these all arranged by the college? Is it possible that from now on, the college will assign code names to both sides in duels? Now everyone can start thinking of their own code name. Don't let anyone take away the domineering code name first. Overlord 10 Generations. Caesar from Hell. Overlord 10 Generations. Caesar from Hell. The students around started cheering for their code names, but the 10 Generations on stage and Caesar were very confused. The origin of this code name is unclear to the parties involved. Principal Shajima looked at the enthusiastic students around him and happily said to Professor Kuronos, the pot of desire. Professor Kuronos, you did a great job in this graduation duel. The emotions of the students around you have all been stirred up. It's just that this code name starts slightly. Principal Shajima closed his eyes and pondered for a while, as if thinking of a better code name. But Professor Kuronos's face was about to cry, because he also doesn't know why such things appear on stage. And even gave the two people on stage such unattractive codes. These are not what he did. Caesar on stage showed a very helpless expression. The text on the screen was indeed very boring for him. Professor Kuronos. And the 10th generation is very interested in their code names. The tense expression just now disappeared completely. Hell Caesar. Is this code name very handsome? The code name, Ba Wang Shi Dai, doesn't quite match me, hee hee. Just as everyone's gaze was fixed on the light curtain, when constantly discussing. The text on the screen suddenly disappeared. Instead, the screen appeared. At the beginning of the screen, it was black, but with the passage of time, the black screen became brighter. A huge iron door appears in the picture. A few people with strange shapes stood around the iron gate. A strange gust of wind drilled into the iron door slowly opened. A person wearing black armor emerged from it, unable to see his face clearly. Standing opposite the man in black armor was Caesar dressed in black. The two stood on either side and did not have much conversation with each other. The man in black armor lifted his right hand. Above his right hand is a black wheel. At the center of the wheel was a very eerie demon eye. Under the control of the black armor man, the black wheel turned into a dual wheel. Caesar in black also revealed his duel and prepared for it. The man in black armor slowly raised his head when he saw that the opponent was ready for the duel. The face under the black head library is exactly the 10th generation of Yucheng. Big brother. How did he become like this? It looks so scary. Maruto Sho said somewhat bewildered. The snowy face behind Maruto Sho spoke solemnly. I haven't seen Caesar like that before. He seems to have never been dressed in black before. Sans Dati remained silent for a moment and said. The two of them seem to have a different appearance from what we are familiar with in the college now. The two people in the light curtain don't seem to be the two people on stage now. One Zhangmu said with some disdain. They just changed their attire. Who knows what Professor Kurono's plan is? However, wearing black armor for the 10th generation is a bit unconventional. If I were to wear that black armor, I would definitely be stronger than that guy from the 10th generation. The words of 10,000 zhang calmed the four of them, who had just been a bit puzzled. That's right, these must have been prepared by Professor Kuronos. After the students around saw the attire of the 10th generation and Caesar, everyone stood up and cheered. They didn't expect this graduation duel to be so unique. The duel between the two has not yet begun, just set the atmosphere to this point. The two people in the light curtain are really like mortal enemies. Especially the costumes of the two are very intimidating. Principal Shajima is also very satisfied with this graduation duel. He looked at Professor Kuronos beside him and said. Professor Kuronos, you really have a heart. This graduation duel is really unique. Our college's future graduation duels will be based on this graduation duel as a template. Professor Kuronos nodded in confusion. Equally bewildered are the 10 generations and Caesar on stage. Because the two of them are not clear either. When did you dress up like this and record this video? P.S. The new book set sail, begging for the data support of all readers. Chapter 3. New cards for electronic dragon card set. Kneeling down. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The two people on the screen of light are ready for a showdown. Hell Caesar roared at the Overlord 10 generations. Remembering the thrill of surging waves at that time. 10 generations. You have an obligation to fight with me. The 10th generation of the Overlord's eyes closed slightly, as if pondering something. After a moment, he suddenly opened his eyes. With a firm tone, he said. No one else is allowed to interfere. Let me see how much you weigh. Dueling. The two of them shouted loudly at the same time. At the moment of shouting, the two had already finished drawing cards from their respective decks. My turn. Hell Caesar shouted loudly. Activate magic card, electronic emergency call for help. Add an electronic dragon monster to your deck. After Caesar finished speaking, he placed the electronic emergency call in the cemetery, then he selected a card from his deck and placed it in his hand. The 10th generation of the tyrant's face froze. It is obvious that Caesar's movements in hell have not stopped yet. Activate from your card. The effect of Electronic Dragon Next Generation Star. Place a monster in your hand into the graveyard. This card is a special summon. With the action of Hell Caesar, a card in his hand was placed in the graveyard. A pure white cobra-like electronic mechanical monster appeared on the field of Hell Caesar. Electronic Dragon Next Generation Star, Attribute/Race/Star Rating. Light/Mechanical/1 star, Attack Power. 200 points, Defense. 200 points, the corners of the mouth of the 10th generation of the tyrant slightly raised, and this monster seemed weak and explosive to him. On the stands of the Dueling Academy dueling field, the students on the surrounding stands all exclaimed in surprise. The fighting style of Hell Caesar seems completely different from their familiar Caesar. Especially the Electronic Dragon Next Generation Star he summoned looks very weak. Student A: How could Senior Caesar use such a weak monster? Student B: That's right, this is different from Caesar's usual tactic. Isn't Caesar's tactic summoning powerful monsters in the first round? Student C: I have never seen Senior Caesar use this Electronic Dragon Next Generation Star before. This monster looks so weak. On another stand in the duel arena of the Dueling Academy, Naruto Sho and his companions were all shocked by Caesar's actions in the light curtain, especially the Electronic Dragon Next Generation Star summoned by Caesar. Chue Shui and Naruto Sho have never seen Caesar use this type of card. Hello, the monster summoned by Elder Caesar looks weak and explosive. Wan Zhongmu looked disdainfully at the Electronic Dragon Next Generation Star in the light screen, and the 3Z Earth beside him pondered and said. This monster does seem to have low attack and defense abilities, but I believe it must have some special effects. After pondering for a moment, the snow blowing behind said. Now it seems that the tactics used by Caesar in the light curtain are quite different from those of Caesar, whom we are familiar with. I have never seen Caesar use this monster before. Maritaka nodded in agreement and said. Yes, I have never seen my brother use the magic card Electronic Emergency Call that he just used. It seems that the older brother in the light screen is using a slightly different deck. Akira Masahiro said solemnly. Caesar's usual tactic is to summon the Electronic Dragon to the field in the first round. I thought the Electronic Emergency Call for Help, just launched by Senior Caesar, was going to summon the Electronic Dragon, but I didn't expect him to summon this monster. Principal Shajima looked solemnly at the hellish Caesar in the light curtain. As an expert in the Electronic Dragon card group, Caesar was not even clear about the cards he used in the light curtain. Professor Coronos, known as the Pot of Desire, widened his eyes. He was even more confused about the tactics used by Caesar in Hell. This is completely different from Caesar's tactics that he is familiar with. The 10 generations on the duel stand looked at the Hell Caesar in the light curtain. Some confused people said. Caesar, this is the first time I've seen you use these two cards. Caesar, standing across from the 10th generation, shook his head and said. 10 generations, unfortunately, I don't have these two cards. After hearing Caesar's words, the 10th generation asked in surprise. What? The person on the screen of light is indeed you. Caesar looked up at himself in confusion as he faced off in the light curtain and said. The person in the light curtain does appear to be me, but I am completely unaware of the decks and tactics he uses. The Hell Caesar in the light curtain did not stop there, but continued to shout loudly. Activate the effect of the electronic dragon chip that has been sent to the cemetery. Add an electronic dragon to your hand from the deck. A black spotted electronic dragon soul emerged from Caesar's dual plate cemetery in Hell. After hovering in mid-air for a while, he burrowed into the deck of Hell Caesar. After the black electronic dragon is inserted into the card set, a card pops out of the deck. Hell Caesar drew the cards that popped out of his deck and placed them in his hand. Next, Hell Caesar drew a card from his hand and inserted it into the duel board. Activate magic card, electronic repair shop. When there is an electronic dragon in our cemetery, this card can be activated. Add a mechanical family light attribute monster to your hand. Card from the deck. P.S. The new book sets sail, begging for the data support of all readers. Chapter 4. New chain and summoning methods. Annealing. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. A huge electronic repair shop slowly rises in front of Caesar in Hell. The assembly line in the electronic repair shop has started working. After the work on the assembly line was completed, the electronic repair shop became fragmented. Another card popped up in the deck of Hell Caesar. After he put the popped card into his hand, then he drew a card from his hand and put it into the duel board. Activate magic card, mechanical reproduction technique. Target a mechanical monster with an attack power of less than 500 on the field. Up to 2 monsters with the same name in the special summoning deck. Go up. Electronic Dragon. Just as Hell Caesar finished speaking, a deck inserted in the duel tray popped up a card. He didn't even look and threw the popped card onto the duel tray. A huge silver electronic dragon appeared on the field. Not finished yet. The second electronic dragon. The electronic dragon on the field turned into a phantom, and soon another electronic dragon split out. Electronic dragon, attribute/race/star rating. Light/mechanical/5 stars, attack power. 2,100 points, defense force. 1,600 points. The 10th generation of overlords looked at Caesar in Hell with a gloomy expression. There is not a single monster on his field, but Caesar from Hell has already summoned 2 powerful electronic dragons to play. After going to 2 electronic dragon malls, in the arena of the duel, there was an uproar. This is the Caesar Senior they are familiar with, especially after seeing 2 electronic dragons come on stage. Student A, here. Here. 2 electronic dragons. Student B, Julius Caesar is truly the strongest in the college. Student C, come on. Caesar's strongest monster. Electronic Ultimate Dragon. On the stands of the duel arena, the expression on Snow Blowing's face softened slightly, although Caesar's tactics in the light curtain have undergone some changes, but it's still the Caesar he's familiar with. There are 2 electronic dragons on the field, and I guess Caesar must have the last electronic dragon in his hand. Card fused with it. Wang Zhangmu sneered and said, I didn't expect that the weak and explosive monster summoned by Senior Caesar before was just a tool dragon. Sans Dottie nodded and praised. Caesar's chain has risen to another height, and now it does look a bit like a professional athlete. Akira's gaze fell on the 10th generation of the Overlord. If Hell Caesar really summons the electronic ultimate dragon, in the first round. The situation of the 10th generation is already very dangerous. Snowflake nodded in agreement and said. Although the damage is 500 points lower than the blue-eyed ultimate dragon, the electronic ultimate dragon has a strong penetration effect. Ordinary defense cannot withstand the attack of the electronic ultimate dragon. Maruto Sho is even more knowledgeable about Caesar's tactics. The electronic ultimate dragon is not just about having 4,000 attack points. My brother has an ace in his deck. Principal Shajima looked proudly at the hellish Caesar in the light curtain. the powerful chain displayed by Caesar from Hell in the light curtain, he was also amazed as an expert in the electronic dragon card group. Professor Kuronos chuckled and said, "Caesar Liang is truly the best student in our Duel Academy, and the chain he uses is no less impressive than those professional players. Just being able to summon the electronic ultimate dragon, in the first round, I don't think the poor students have any hope of winning." Principal Shajima nodded and praised. "That's right, and even I'm not quite sure about the cards he used in the light curtain. Caesar's strength has been greatly enhanced. But Professor Kuronos, the strength of the 10th generation cannot be underestimated. Even if Caesar Liang summons the electronic ultimate dragon, in the first round, he cannot attack in his turn. I am very curious now about how the 10th generation students will face such a powerful opponent. Caesar's bright movements in the light curtain have no intention of stopping. Activate the effect of Electronic Dragon Type 4 from your card. When we successfully summon the Electronic Dragon, we can use this card to indicate a special summon on the field." A slightly smaller pink Electronic Dragon appeared on the field of Hell Caesar. After the appearance of this pink Electronic Dragon, it shrank into a ball. But his eyes emitted a golden light. The other three monsters on the field were immediately shrouded in a golden light. The golden light slowly penetrated into the bodies of the three electronic dragons. Three electronic dragons simultaneously emitted a roar. The attack and defense of all three electronic dragons have increased by 500 points. Electronic Dragon Type 4, Attribute/Race/Star Rating. Light/Mechanical/4 Attack Power. 1100 points, Defense Force. 1600 points, Caesar's movements in Hell never stopped. And the Overlord 10th generation across from him murmured with a heavy expression. 25-star monsters, are you coming? Just as the words of the 10th generation of the tyrant had just finished, Hell Caesar lifted two electronic dragons from the duel tray and shouted loudly. "I will stack the two electronic dragons on the field. XYZ Super Summoning. Go. Electronic Dragon New Star. P.S. The new book sets sail, begging for the data support of all readers." Chapter 5. Another new summoning method. Kneel down. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just as Caesar's words fell from Hell, a golden vortex suddenly appeared in the empty space of his confrontation with the 10th generation of the Overlord. The two electronic dragons on the field of Hell Caesar transformed into two golden dots, directly rushed into the golden vortex. At the moment when the golden dots disappear, the golden vortex shines brightly. A silver and black electronic dragon appeared on the field of Hell Caesar. This electronic dragon also has a team of huge metal wings on both sides. The chest electronic energy stove is filled with energy. The golden energy ball that has just been transformed from an electronic dragon follows an X trajectory, continuously surrounding the massive body of electronic dragon Nova. Electronic dragon Nova, Attribute/Race/Class. Light/Machinery/Fifth Order, Attack Power. 2100 points, Defense Force. 1600 points, Dueling Academy Dueling Ground. Student A. What is the summoning method used by Elder Caesar? Student B. I haven't seen it before. I've never seen it before. There can't be such a summoning method. Student C. Has the college developed any new way of dueling? Student D. Electronic Dragon New Star looks so domineering. I have never seen this Caesar Sr. use this monster before. As the students continued to discuss, the arena was suddenly filled with an uproar. The students have never heard of this summoning method before. Some students have already turned their attention to Principal Shajima and Professor Kuronos. On another stand in the duel arena, after seeing Caesar summon the electronic dragon Nova from Hell, blowing snow, standing up directly from his own position, staring incredulously at Hell Caesar in the light curtain. Impossible, Caesar never used any other summoning method. And this summoning method doesn't even exist. Akira also said with great confusion. There has never been such a summoning method in the college teaching. However, after using this summoning method, the Duel board did not issue a warning for the senior Caesar in the light curtain. It is obvious that this summoning method does not violate any rules. Sans Dottie looked at the electronic dragon, Nova, in the light screen for a moment and was stunned, then he took out his small notebook and quickly made notes on it. Wan Zhongmu frowned and looked at Maruto Xiang beside him, saying, "Kid, have you ever heard of Caesar Liang's summoning method?" Maruto Shoka shook his head and said, "No, my brother's commonly used summoning method is fusion. I also saw him use this summoning method in the light curtain for the first time." After Maruto Sho finished speaking, the four people present coincidentally frowned. The summoning method that Maruto Sho didn't even know, where exactly did Caesar learn? After seeing Caesar Liang's brand new way of summoning, Principal Shajima just stood up straight. How did he learn this summoning method? Principal Shajima said solemnly. Professor Kuronos, known as the Pot of Desire, was even more surprised at this moment, because he has never heard of any stacked light XYZ excessive summoning. The summoning method used by Caesar Liang in the light curtain is something our college has never seen before. The 10 generations on the Duel platform looked at the hellish Caesar in the light curtain with their eyes shining brightly. How impressive. Caesar, how did you learn this summoning method? It's the first time I've seen this summoning method. Caesar's face was also full of doubts. I don't know, this summoning method is also the first time I've seen it. After hearing Caesar's words, the 10th generation's face was filled with disbelief. Caesar, the person in the light curtain is you, and it is you who uses this summoning method. How could you not know this summoning method? Caesar Liang did not respond to the questions of the 10th generation, but continued to frown and look at oneself in the light curtain. The confrontation in the light curtain has far exceeded his cognitive scope, although the hellish Caesar in the light curtain bears a striking resemblance to himself, but the tactics he used were completely unclear to himself, especially with this strange summoning method. The duel in the light curtain is still ongoing, after summoning the electronic dragon Nova, Caesar of Hell, continuing. Set the 2 effect monsters on the field in the Link flag. Link summoning. Electronic dragons triumph. As the words of Caesar from Hell fell, in the center of the showdown, a huge square emerged. There is a triangular arrow in each of the 8 directions of the square. The Electronic Dragon Next Generation Star and Electronic Dragon Type 4 on the field of Hell Caesar have turned into red light, directly flew towards the arrow positions in the center left and bottom of the square in the field. After the arrows in the middle left and bottom of the square are filled with 2 red lights, a brand new monster appeared at the top of the square. This monster is silver all over, although it looks very much like an electronic dragon, but the head looks like a cobra. Electronic Dragon's Triumph, the Tribute/Race/Star Rating. Light/Mechanical/2 stars, Attack Power. 2,100 points, Link. 2. After being summoned, he did not fall on Caesar's field in Hell like other monsters, but instead, he landed at the center of the battleground between Caesar and the Overlord of Hell. A brand new monster slot has popped up in the 4th position on the Duel board of Hell Caesar. He placed the Electronic Dragon Triumph on the newly emerged monster position. P.S. The new book set sail, begging for the data support of all readers. Is this Caesar's true strength in Chapter 6? You are listening at novelfull.audio. When the Hell Caesar in the light curtain uses the Link summoning, in the arena of the duel, there was a complete silence. Everyone looked in surprise at the light curtain in the center of the duel platform. Caesar in the light curtain has already used 2 new summoning methods. And the duel in the light curtain is still ongoing. Activate the effect of Electronic Dragon Nova. Remove an excess material and summon a special electronic dragon from the cemetery. After Caesar finished speaking, the energy ball surrounding the electronic dragon Nova on the field suddenly changes its trajectory, flying to the empty monster spot next to it. The energy ball constantly changes its form on the monster's position. The blood-red eyes of electronic dragon Nova also lit up at this moment. The energy ball eventually turned into the electronic dragon Next Generation Star. Hell Caesar continued. Activate the monster effect of Electronic Dragon Next Generation Star. Electronic Dragon Next Generation Star. After being successfully summoned by a special summon, you can summon a mechanical monster from the cemetery that attacks or defends 2,100 points. Go up. Electronic Dragon. The newly debuted Electronic Dragon Next Generation Star roared. In a second, energy fluctuations appeared on the field of Hell. Caesar, an electronic dragon, appeared on the field. Not finished yet. Usually summoned. Electronic Dragon. Type 3. Electronic Dragon. Type 3, Attribute/Raise/Star Rating. Light/Mechanical/4 star, Attack Power. 1,800 points, Defense Force. 800 points. After Hell. Caesar puts the card on the duel board, a silver-white flying fish-shaped electronic dragon appeared on the field. Activate the effect of Electronic Dragon Type 3. When this card is successfully summoned, it can turn all electronic dragons on our field into 5-star monsters. The Electronic Dragon Type 3 emits golden light throughout its body. Next second, the electronic dragon monsters on the field of Hell. Caesar all lit up in gold. XYZ Super Summoning. Second, Electronic Dragon Nova. The Electronic Dragon Next Generation Star and Electronic Dragon are transformed into two energy spheres, drilled into the energy vortex. The next second, the second Electronic Dragon Nova will appear on the field. Activate the monster effect of Electronic Dragon Nova. Special summoning of the Electronic Dragon in the cemetery. The energy sphere surrounding the newly summoned Electronic Dragon Nova has transformed into the image of the Electronic Dragon, appearing on the field of Caesar in Hell. Not finished yet. XYZ summons beyond capacity. The third, Electronic Dragon Nova. The Electronic Dragon Type 3 and Electronic Dragon on the field are simultaneously transformed into energy balls, caught into the energy vortex. The energy vortex lit up, and the third Electron Dragon Nova appeared in the field. Electronic Dragon Nova monster effect activated. Special summoning. Electronic Dragon Type 3. The energy ball of the newly summoned Electronic Dragon Nova on the field flew into the empty space, transformed into a flying fish-like Electronic Dragon. After the appearance, the Electronic Dragon curled up in a defensive position. At this moment, the arena was completely silent. Everyone present was stunned by Caesar's actions in Hell. This chain approach is something they have never encountered before. This is just the first round of Caesar in Hell. He has summoned 4 monsters on the field, especially with that brand new way of summoning, powerful effects with these new monsters. I don't know who burst out the roar first in the venue. The still silent venue was suddenly filled with an uproar. The roof of the venue was about to be overturned by the roar of the students. Student A, Senior Caesar is too strong. Student B, is this the true strength of Senior Caesar? It's too terrifying. Student C, after 10 generations, neither of these two individuals has the same level of strength. Student D, Caesar's strength may be even stronger than those professional athletes. On another stand in the duel arena, Sans Dottie said somewhat helplessly. The tactics displayed by Caesar's Senior in the light curtain are far more sophisticated than those used by the well-known Caesar Senior. If this is the true strength of Colonel Caesar, I'm afraid there is no hope for 10 generations to achieve it. The courtyard in the sky blue snow and said excitedly, I didn't expect Caesar to hide so deep. Is this his true strength? One Zhangmu said with some disdain. Even if Elder Caesar summons 4 monsters, in my opinion, it is not as exhilarating as the Electronic Ultimate Dragon. The attack power of these 4 monsters is not enough to look at. Caesar's chain is indeed beautiful, but the monsters on the field are also too weak. Akira shook her head and said, these monsters don't seem very strong, but with such a complex chain of summoned monsters, the monster effect must be very powerful. After speaking, Akira looked firmly at the light curtain and said, there must be other monster effects in Electronic Dragon Nova. Julius Caesar may just be using one of the monster effects from Electronic Dragon Nova. Sans Dottie nodded in agreement with Akira's idea. Maruto Shoka looked at the Overlord 10 generations in the light screen with some concern. Big brother. You have no chance of winning this battle at all. P.S. The new book set sail, begging for the data support of all readers. Are you ready for Chapter 7? Kneeling down. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Another stand in the showdown, Principal Shijima's face was filled with pride. As an expert in the Electronic Dragon card group, watching my students use Electronic Dragon cards to such an extent, how could he not be happy in his heart? Although Caesar Liang used the card, I haven't even heard of him. Professor Coronos was also very surprised at this moment, but soon his face was also filled with joy. The strength demonstrated by Caesar Liang is so powerful, it will definitely give that poor student a taste of failure. Caesar, the hell in the light curtain, let out a cold snort, then he said. Come on, let's take a look at the new form of Electronic Dragon Nova. Upgrade to XYZ transformation. Go ahead. Electronic Dragon. Infinite. With the words of Hell Caesar, the Electronic Dragon Nova on his field began to change. The Electronic Dragon Nova let out a roar. Immediately after, the energy stove in front of me burst out with an unprecedented light, the silver parts of the body turned black, and the wings changed from black and white to pure black, but a dark red energy color appeared on the wings. The energy ball that disappeared just now due to the use of the Electronic Dragon Nova effect, after completing the transformation in Electronic Dragon Infinite, it also reappears. After the appearance of Electronic Dragon, let out a roar, its attack power has increased from 2,100 points to 2,500 points. Electronic Dragon Infinite, the Tribute/Race/Star rating. Light/Mechanical/5 stars, attack power. 2,100 points, defense force. 800 points. After Caesar finished all this, staring at the Overlord Shirdai standing opposite him, he said. It's your turn, 10th generation. My turn is over. After seeing the appearance of Electronic Dragon Infinity in the duel arena, the students, there was another uproar, especially the students of Obelisk Blue. It's even more exciting. Obelisk Student A, this is the true strength of our Obelisk Blue's most powerful senior. Obelisk Student B, Osiris Red's poor student, let you feel what true strength is. Obelisk Student C, I guess the 10th generation of the Overlord in the light curtain has already been scared by the chain of Caesar's senior students. As the students of Obelisk Blue shouted louder and louder, the Osiris Red students on the stands had a gloomy expression on their faces. The fact that the 10th generation was able to stand on the stage for graduation duels gave them great encouragement. I didn't expect the gap between the two to be so huge. The strength demonstrated by Caesar Liang is completely insurmountable. This kind of strength completely exceeds the strength of the students in the Dueling Academy. I'm afraid I can't even compare to those professional athletes. On the other side of the stands, after seeing the appearance of Electronic Dragon Infinite in the Sky Garden Snowfall, even more exclaimed in surprise. How much of Caesar's summoning methods we don't know are hidden from us. This XYZ monster can actually transform. How many new cards has he used now? As soon as the words of Blowing Snow were finished, Sans Dottie spoke up. From the beginning of the duel to the end of the turn, the new cards currently in use that we are not aware of include 2 magic cards and 6 monster cards, totaling 8. There are 3 new summoning methods in total. One Zhangmu said disdainfully. Although there are many new cards on Caesar's field that we don't know about, the highest attack power among these monsters is only 2,500 points. Although Caesar's chain method is something we have never seen before, the monsters summoned through these chain methods are not very powerful. Even if these monsters have monster effects that we don't know about, their strength is just that. The snow blowing in the courtyard retorted. Although we are not sure about the effects of these monsters, Caesar has not yet used fusion to summon the Electronic Ultimate Dragon. This indicates that these monsters on his field are definitely much more powerful than the electronic ultimate dragon. Akira nodded in agreement and said. Even if Caesar's tactics change, with Caesar's usual style of confrontation, he will not place useless monsters on the field for no reason. Sans Earth sighed and said. This confrontation has completely surpassed our imagination, and Caesar's tactics have completely exceeded my understanding. The chances of winning for the 10th generation are now completely gone. Maruto Sho clenched his fists and stared at Yoshiro Shirdai on stage. Big brother. I didn't expect this to be my brother's true strength. The two people in the light curtain dueled, and in the eyes of everyone present, it was pre-recorded, then it will be played back. But only the 10th generation and Caesar are clear about it, they themselves are not aware of this confrontation. Not to mention the strength displayed by Caesar in Hell in the light curtain, far surpassing Caesar, who appeared on the confrontation platform, by an unknown number of times. Caesar Liang turned his head to look at the 10th generation standing opposite him and said. 10 generations, the person in the screen of light is not me now. The strength he has demonstrated is something that I do not possess now. I believe that you in the light curtain are not the same as you are now. So, the outcome between them doesn't mean much. 10 generations rubbed their noses and said. Caesar, you don't have to comfort me, and I don't think I'll lose to you in the light curtain. The voice of the 10th generation of Yucheng has just finished, the 10th generation of the Overlord in the light curtain slowly spoke up. Be prepared, I won't let you die happily. P.S. The new book set sail, begging for the data support of all readers. Chapter 8. Inner Darkness, the Strongest Power Kneeling and Seeking. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hell Caesar's face darkened upon hearing these words, the expression on his face also became serious. The 10th generation of Ba Wang shouted loudly. My turn, draw under the black helmet. The 10th generation of the Overlord stared coldly at the electronic dragon infinite on the field of Hell Caesar. If the effect of electronic dragon infinite is ineffective, I must find a way to solve it first. He thought of this, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and he had already thought of a way to deal with electronic dragon infinity. Summoning the Hell Demon from the hand. The cold and calm tone of the 10th generation of the Overlord, it seems that the surrounding air is descending along with it. Evil-hearted hero. Hell Demon, attribute/race/star. Dark/devil/2 stars, attack power. 300 points, defense force. 600 points, a monster resembling a locust appeared on the field of the 10th generation of the Overlord. This monster has a pair of wings on its back and head. After Caesar saw the monster summoned by the 10th generation of the Overlord, the expression on his face suddenly became much darker. When there are no monsters on our field, this card can be specially summoned from the hand. Next, the attack represents the usual summon, Liquid Man. Bawang Shirdai drew a card from his hand and placed it on the Devil Duel plate, then another monster appeared on the field. This humanoid monster is blue and black, with the blue part resembling flowing water. Elemental Hero. Liquid Hero, attribute/race/star rating. Water/warrior/4 stars, attack power. 1400 points, defense force. 1300 points. There are already 2 monsters on the field of the 10th generation of the Overlord, and standing opposite him, Caesar from Hell seemed to face a formidable enemy. The whole person suddenly became very nervous, staring intently at the 10th generation of the Overlord. Dueling venue. The series of operations of the 10th generation of the Overlord are far from the shock brought by Caesar in Hell. It's quite average, so it did not bring a great shock to the onlookers in the venue. Student A, that's it. The strength of the 10th generation seems so weak, and Caesar has already shown his true strength. Isn't he taking it seriously? Student B, maybe that poor student has started to give up on himself, but the locust monster he used looks like a new card. I've never seen him use it before, have I? Student C, what new card? It looks weak and explosive. Student D. According to the tactics of the 10th generation, there are already 2 monsters on the field. Shouldn't they be preparing to merge? Student A. Fusion. Water Locust Man haha. The entire venue burst into laughter. Some students even shouted loudly that the 10th generation in the light curtain should give up quickly, don't waste the big guy's time. The students of Osiris Red saw the operations of the 10th generation in the light curtain, everyone lowered their heads and sighed helplessly. There are 4 monsters with 2,100 attack points on the field of Hell Caesar, and the 10th generation only summoned 2 monsters with very weak attack power. Even if 10 generations merge these 2 monsters, this doesn't have any effect either. Another stand in the duel arena. Maruto Sho stared at the 10th generation in the light screen with some concern. Big brother. Are you really giving up on yourself? Akira frowned and listened to the laughter and cheers coming from around her. I suddenly felt restless in my heart. 10 generations of this guy, what is he doing? Has he really been suppressed by Caesar from hell? 10,000 Zhongmu leaned back on the chair, saying. Normal, the strength of the 2 was not on the same level originally, and now that Hell Caesar has shown his true strength, the 10th generation guy must have no way to deal with it. Sans Dottie is abnormal and has not made an evaluation of the situation on the field, but he seems to have been staring at Caesar in hell. The snow blowing in the courtyard in the sky is a sign of this. Then he spoke up and asked. Earth, what do you think of the situation in the field? Sans Dottie said with some confusion. Look at Caesar's expression in the screen of light, his expression doesn't seem to be what a person with an advantage should show. After the 10th generation summoned these 2 monsters, his entire demeanor suddenly became very tense. After hearing the analysis of the earth, all 4 people around turned to Caesar in hell in the light curtain. As the land of sand said, Hell Caesar stared at the Overlord 10 generations as if facing a great enemy. On the other side of the stands, Professor Coronos saw these 2 monsters summoned by the 10th generation. My mood suddenly improved. Just like the students around me shouting, 10 generations have seen the strength demonstrated by Caesar in hell, I have started to give up on myself. Oh hee. Poor students are just poor students, they can't be compared to the first place in the college. Principal Shajima remained silent, just silently staring at the 2 people in the light curtain, because he also noticed that Caesar's expression in hell was somewhat off. The 10th generation of overlords coldly glanced at Caesar in hell, then he glanced at his hand again and said. Send a hand card to the cemetery, let you see and see, the symbol of the strongest power nurtured by inner darkness, absolutely invincible, unleash the ultimate power. After the 10th generation of Bawang finished speaking, he drew a card from his hand and raised it high. P.S. The new book set sail, begging for the data support of all readers. Chapter 9. My chain has just started kneeling and begging. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the 10th generation of the Overlord in the light curtain finished speaking, the entire venue was filled with another burst of laughter, especially the students of Obelisk Blue, laughing back and forth one by one. As if the 10th generation of the Overlord in the light curtain is like a clown, strive to make funny appearances and make people laugh. Obelisk Blue Student A, is he serious? His strongest strength. Locust Liquid Man. Obelisk Blue Trainee B, it's really true. Although I can't see what card he's holding, I can tell from the color that it's like a magic card. Obelisk Blue Trainee C, it must be a magic card, the tactics of the 10th generation must be fusion. Another student from Obelisk Blue, learning the movements of the 10th generation of the Overlord in the light curtain, said. Let you see and see, the symbol of the strongest power nurtured by inner darkness. Fusion activated. Locust Liquid Hero. The burst of laughter throughout the room was deafening. On the other side of the stands, Akira and the others looked solemnly at the 10th generation of the Overlord in the light curtain. Sans Dottie was the first to say. Although it's not very clear, what the 10th generation holds is definitely not fusion. The snow-blowing person sitting in the back row nodded and agreed. That's right, but what's certain is that the 10th generation is indeed holding a magic card. The 10th generation of the Overlord in the light curtain holds up his magic card. Standing opposite him, Caesar from Hell stared solemnly at the 10th generation of the Overlord, waiting for his next move. Activate. Superfusion. As soon as the 10th generation of the Overlord finished speaking, a black lightning vortex appeared over the entire arena. As he placed a card in his hand into the cemetery, the black energy vortex above the duel arena seemed to be opened by someone. The lightning around the vortex became very dense. Holding a superfusion allows you to use monsters on both sides of the field as fusion materials. Immediately, the 10th generation of the Overlord shouted loudly. Use our liquid hero on the field and your electronic dragon infinite on the field as fusion materials. Before the 10th generation of the Overlord could finish speaking, he was immediately interrupted by Caesar from Hell. What I'm waiting for is now. The electronic dragon infinite effect is activated. Electronic dragon infinite eliminate an excessive amount of material that can render the card effect activated by the opponent ineffective and destroy it. The energy ball surrounding the electronic dragon infinite on the field of Hell. Caesar suddenly changed its rules, flying directly towards the energy furnace in front of the chest of electronic dragon infinity. The charged energy furnace shines brightly. Following that, electronic dragon infinity sprayed energy rays into the black vortex in the sky. But surprisingly, all the energy of the energy rays was completely absorbed by the black energy vortex of the superfusion, and the black energy vortex was not affected in any way. Nanny. What? How could the monster effect of electronic dragon infinite not work? Bawang Sherdai sneered and said. Humph, foolishness. After activating superfusion, any monster, magic card, or trap card effect will have no effect on superfusion. In other words, the activation of hyperfusion cannot be chained. Superfusion is the absolute force that guides complete victory. In the face of this power, everything is powerless. As the energy of the black energy vortex in the duel arena reaches its peak, the powerful suction will suck in both the elemental hero, Liquid Man, and the electronic dragon, Infinite on the field of the 10th generation of the Overlord. Immediately after, the black energy vortex was dispersed by a flashing figure, fusion summoning, elemental hero, flash hero, activate the effect of elemental hero. Liquid hero, that has been sent to the cemetery. The elemental hero of Liquid Man, which is sent as fusion material to the cemetery, allows us to draw 2 cards from the deck and discard 1 card in this round. Hell. Caesar stared solemnly at the unfolding chain of the 10 generations of Overlord. But after activating the effect of elemental hero, Liquid Man, the 10th generation of the Overlord, I didn't rush to draw the card, but slowly spoke up. Chain activated, the effect of the elemental hero. Shadow Mist Girl, thrown into the cemetery. Elemental hero, Shadow Mist Girl, in the turn of being thrown into the graveyard, our side can choose a hero monster from the deck to join the hand card in this turn in the duel venue. At this moment, the entire venue was completely silent. Just now, I was mocking the 10 generation students of Obelisk Blue in the light curtain. At this moment, everyone was shocked by the chain displayed by the 10th generation of the Overlord, especially after using the unbreakable superfusion. The top students in these colleges all had incredible expressions on their faces. And the students of Osiris Red who were just feeling disheartened, at this moment, excited expressions appeared on each of their faces. On the Osiris Red student observation stage, I don't know who shouted first. Next, the thunderous cheers echoed throughout the entire duel venue. Caesar Liang on the duel platform closed his eyes and slightly raised the corner of his mouth, saying, "Well done, 10th generation. It seems that you have a very good card in the light curtain. P.S. The new book set sail, begging for the data support of all readers." Chapter 10. Entering the defensive Hell. Caesar, kneeling and begging. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sherdai felt a bit embarrassed and touched his nose, saying, "Caesar Liang, I haven't even seen that superfusion picture." Caesar said with a serious expression on his face. I believe you, because the cards and tactics I use in the light screen are also unfamiliar to me. On the stands of the duel arena, the students of Osiris Red all began to cheer on the 10th generation of the Overlord in the light curtain, and the faces of the students of Obelisk Blue were extremely ugly at this moment. Barisk Blue Student A, what card was that poor student using? Why would Caesar's monster effect be ineffective against him? Barisk Blue Trainee B, I've never seen a magic card used by a poor student before. The effect of this magic card is really amazing. Barisk Blue Trainee C, it doesn't matter, Caesar's advantage still exists. Even if the poor students eliminate the most powerful monster on Caesar's field, there are still 4 monsters on Caesar's field. On the other side of the stands, the snow blowing in the heavenly courtyard and others finally understood why Hell Caesar would show a face as if facing a formidable enemy. Sans Dottie said with a solemn expression. Although the 10th generation sent the most powerful monster on Caesar's field to the cemetery. But the advantage on the field is still on Caesar's side. The snow blowing in the courtyard immediately said. I think the 10th generation chain is not just that, there must be more chains behind it. When the 4 people in front of him heard this, they all showed shocked expressions. Akira stared at the somewhat unfamiliar Shirdai in the light curtain and said. I always feel like the 10th generation in the light screen is a bit different from the 10 generations we know. After activating the effect of Elemental Hero. Shadow Girl, the 10th generation of the Overlord in the light curtain, the Hell Caesar standing opposite him also moved. Activate the monster effect of Electronic Dragon Nova, excluding one of our Electronic Dragons on the field. Before the end of the turn, the attack power of Electronic Dragons Nova increases by 2,100 points. The monster I choose to exclude is Electronic Dragon Type 3. Energy Overload with the command of Caesar from Hell. The Electronic Dragon Type 3 on the field has transformed into a golden energy, rushed directly into the energy furnace of an Electronic Dragon Nova in the field. This Electronic Dragon Nova roared, increasing its attack power from 2,100 to 4,200. On the side of the 10th generation of the Overlord, both monster effects in the cemetery have begun to take effect. The first effect that takes effect is the Elemental Hero Shadow Girl effect. He selected a Elemental Hero card from the deck and added it to his hand. After returning the deck to the duel board underwent a shuffle. Following that, the effect of Elemental Hero Liquid Hero was activated. After drawing 2 cards directly above the deck, he threw 1 card from his hand into the graveyard. At the end of the 2 monster effects in the 10th generation of the Overlord, Hell Caesar shouted loudly. Activate the monster effect of Electronic Dragon Type 3, in situations where this card is excluded, use one of our Electronic Dragons as the target effect to activate it. This monster will not be destroyed by combat effects. Bawang Shirdai sneered and said. Combined with the self-effect of Electronic Dragon Triumph, attacking monsters does not cause combat damage. Just know how to be clever. Upon hearing these words, Caesar's face froze in hell. My whole body is full of tension. On the viewing platform of the duel venue. With the explanation of the 10th generation of Overlords, the students of Obelisk Blue seem to have heard something unbelievable. Obelisk Blue Trainee A, what does he mean? Is it true that Caesar, who had the most advantage, had fully entered the defense in front of him? Obelisk Blue Trainee B, it sounds like this, but now there is a monster with a high attack power of 4,200 points on the field of Caesar. How could Caesar possibly enter the defense? Obelisk Blue Trainee C, the 10th generation is just bluffing. Now anyone with a clear eye can see who is the advantage and who is the disadvantage. On another stand, Professor Kuronos chuckled coldly and said. The gap between the strengths and weaknesses of both sides is so great now that the outcome has been determined. How could a poor student possibly win over our top students in Obelisk Blue? Principal Shajima looked seriously at Caesar Liang in the light curtain. What kind of students are they? He knows better than anyone else in his heart. The advantages and disadvantages on the field are indeed very obvious now. but Caesar's expression in the light curtain won't deceive anyone. The current situation on the field is not as people see it. It is very likely that Caesar is currently at a disadvantage. The 10th generation of the Overlord in the light curtain continues to say. Connection summoning. Special hero, hell-splitting demon. As the words of the 10th generation of the Overlord fell, a square appeared in the field, similar to the one used to summon Caesar from hell, but the arrows chosen by the monsters on the field of the 10th generation of the Overlord are completely different from the arrows chosen by Caesar in hell. The arrows chosen by the monsters on the field of the 10th generation of Overlord are bottom left and bottom right respectively. As the arrows on the lower left and lower right of the field are focused with red energy. A brand new monster appeared above the square. P.S. The new book sets sail, begging for the data support of all readers. Kneeling for evaluation votes.